So what are you seeing with VVC? How much? I know you have a VVC encoder. Is it live, or I think you're live as well, right?
We are live.
So what is what's the uptake on that? What are you seeing?
So in Brazil, for us, it's a big uptake for what we call TV 3.0. It has a new name. It's called DTV Plus today. So this is where we are getting the uptake today. The other one is in China, but in China today they are mostly using in-house codec, so it's hard to get penetration in China. But they are also pushing a lot to use VVC in China. And so for us, it's mainly Brazil that we are concentrating on.
Okay, is your satellite solution codec agnostic, or is that using?
Yeah, it's fully agnostic from the codec.
So go ahead.
So everyone could work, VVC could work later on. So we are fully agnostic from any codec today.
So looking at your customers are producing 100% of strains. How would you break that down between the codecs? I mean, what percentage is still 264, HEVC, AV1, VVC? Can you even estimate at this point?
Estimating is hard. What we are seeing is that people are moving from H.264 today to HEVC a lot, and we are also seeing a big ramp up of AV1 this year. So I would say ATSC 3.2 in the US was starting to use mostly HEVC or use HEVC only for terrestrial. That was a big takeoff in 2018. After that, we were a bit waiting for others to move forward for live. And 2 years ago, there was a big demand for HEVC as well. Now I'm seeing also a big demand for AV1 because the ecosystem is there, and we are seeing that the big streamers at least are looking into putting AV1 massively in production, even for live.
Okay, and one of the big questions that a lot of people in the streaming industry is facing relates to VVC. When's it going to be a technology that people start to use? When are people going to adopt it? Do you have any insights you can share with us on that?
Well, I mean, I think with the optimizations that we've seen here in this conference that's being shown, we were not specifically VVC. We were not VVC specific, but obviously optimizations can be made leveraging VVC and what we're showing related to change in resolution without having to produce an intra picture. I think in these extreme low latency cases, as well as the bandwidth savings, I think that's going to happen very fast. I think one of the big delays related to VVC is once the specification was finalized, it takes time for an implementation to come out and reach the market that's actually usable. And we're getting to that point now. I think we saw that in a demonstration from Ericsson that was out there. It wasn't our company, that they've shown an implementation of a VVC codec running, doing cloud gaming in ultra low latency. So I think we're at the point now where VVC is beginning to be deployed today, or is it a state in terms of support where it can actually do the encoding, decoding real time to where now it can be deployed.
Okay, so one of the things I'm asking different interviewees is their views on VVC. What are you hearing from people that you're talking to here, and what are you hearing in general about implementing VVC?
Yeah, VVC, I mean, it's a good question. We have developed our own encoders going back to MPEG-2 days, but also AVC, HEVC, and we have our own VVC implementation. We are seeing interest, I would say, VVC, but I would not, I mean, it's still early exploration, I think. It's also quite geographically dependent, I would say. Some parts of the world might be faster in evaluating first and then adopting possibly VVC. I think in some parts of the world it's more just early interest. In other parts of the world we're seeing a bit more concrete, testing going on, exploration of also decoder devices and how those would enter the market.
So go into that. Is that I heard from another interviewer that China was not adopting anything from the Alliance for Open Media because they wanted open standards. Is that what, are you talking about China for VVC adoption? Is that what you're saying?
Well, China is indeed, I think, a market where things might go faster than in other parts of the world. There's also the TV 3.0 initiative in Brazil, where VVC is in the toolbox. So there's a couple of places where I think the interest is a bit more concrete at this point.
Okay. So looking strictly at codecs, what are you seeing? I noticed that you do everything from X.265 to VVC at this point. What interest are you seeing, spread between those two codecs?
So to be honest with you, one of the trends from last year Mile High that or at least I saw personally throughout the year, is that people aren't quite ready to move on past HEVC yet. In the terms of a wise friend, we have enough headaches going on with HEVC that we're not ready to move past that. We need to fix this first before we can really move on. And I've seen that true through our customer base and through the conversations I've had throughout the year. The VVC adoption and other alternative formats are starting to grow, but the device capacity and just in general the business case for transitioning your entire codec line from HEVC onward is still slow, at least in my opinion.
How bullish are you on VVC? I mean, it sounds like LCVC and VVC are pulling each other forward in at least one or two standards, or two now standards more coming, I guess.
Yeah, I'm very bullish on VVC. We're working, we are a patent holder and a promoter of VVC as well. Of course, we don't own all of it like in LCVC, but we are very, very bullish on VVC as an excellent technology. It has a lot of benefits that companies are starting to figure out. And the combination LCVC, VVC is particularly helpful. In Brazil, it proved to be critical, also in ATSC. But aside from broadcast, we are working with big partners also to show the big benefits in mobile deployment, because essentially, even when hardware decoding isn't available, the combination of LCVC and VVC makes it possible to decode with sustainable battery consumption, also with software decoding. At the transcoding, LCVC makes VVC three times faster. So aside from the benefits in compression, but the most important thing is faster encoding, much lower battery power at decoding. It makes it feasible to deploy VVC at scale today already to a very, very high percentage also of mobile devices. We've shown similar things, by the way, also with AV1, so the same thing is true for AV1. We see VVC as an excellent codec for applications that we're working on, and definitely in broadcasting, everything we're doing is with VVC, but also in mobile, we are working on exciting applications, especially in Asia.
Okay, so a subject near and dear to my heart and your heart is VVC. We spoke, I guess, about a year ago, and you said VVC was dead.
Yes.
I was kind of surprised. The latest version of FFmpeg had VVC decode in it.
Yes.
And what is your, so all jokes aside, what are you seeing from the industry about VVC adoption within the companies that you're working with now?
It's the same, right? Unfortunately, I think that the VVC scenarios are too small and not interesting enough to be a massive thing. The patents situation is even worse than the HEVC1, right? So for me, it's not compelling enough to have mass adoption. But at the same time, as you know, right, I'm actually the one who has been sponsoring the VVC decoder inside FFmpeg, right? Because the goal of FFmpeg and VLC is to support everything, right? And that doesn't mean that I believe a codec is good or not, right? That's not my problem, right? As a technical person, and as head of VLC and active member of FFmpeg, we support everything. And VVC is a new thing; we need to support it, right? And we support things like VP6, VP7, VP8, even VP9, and those codecs are way less useful. But I still think that I see really a dual track H.264 AV1 on a lot of cases, and I feel that VP8, VP9 are going to go away slowly for AV1, and that HEVC will stay around for broadcasting, but anything outside is just going to be H.264 AV1, and not very optimistic for the mass adoption of VVC or newer codecs.
Okay, is VVC playback available in VLC?
Yes, of course.
Okay, I didn't know that. That's something I'll try. What's your view on VVC at this point? Where's it going? When's it going to be here?
Well, being in this space for many years, I can tell you that Beamr has no plans to practice VVC and create its own encoder like we didn't do for AV1. But these things takes time, and there's lots of adoption that needs to take place. A standard is a serious thing. There are many parties that needs to play along with it. There's the silicon ramifications of adding additional even encoder or decoder. I'm sorry, on the player side. So it's a big deal. What we're seeing, just as a thumb rule, is probably 10 years. It takes from the introduction of a new codec until it gets some beginning of a market attraction, and then there's always this adoption masses where the content distributors are saying we're going to adopt it because we see enough availability of the decoders, so yes, we're going to adopt yet another standard. And this is always a transitional process, so it takes time. So don't hold your breath, and not because I have anything against it, right? It's just it's just a process that takes a long time.
So I'm asking people I'm speaking to about VVC. What are your, in 60 seconds or less, what are your predictions about VVC?
VVC, great technology, poor adoption, and I cannot fix that. I'm not going to go to the patent discussion, but it's a typical example, and you saw my post recently on LinkedIn saying, for mobile device, it was AVC and HEVC for encoders. VVC, nobody's touching it because it's too complicated. The good news is that VVC decoder on mobile works. Tencent, Alibaba have presented a very decent implementation up to 4K, but if I want to record, can I do it? No. Now, I know your next question is going to be H.267. If we can't sell VVC, how are we going to sell the next generation encoder?
It's remarkable to me that they're even pursuing it, but I don't want to go there. The VVC, you don't see that having an impact. Is it never going to succeed, or is it?
I cannot say that. Don't quote me on that. I say VVC, high expectation, not too much results so far.
So far or ever?
No, so far. I think Brazil will launch it. Japan will make 8K channel, but it's not impactful. What I like to hear is Chinese community telling me we cannot touch AOM, American technology, all in on VVC. VVC will be a huge success in China, and maybe beyond China. Maybe.
Okay. How much interest are you seeing in VVC?
Little, to be honest. Certainly on the CDN side, everyone's practical. AVC is still the dominant codec we deliver, and that's true for all CDNs, not just Akamai. I'm seeing an uptake in HEVC, especially for 4K content now. And VVC, very, very little. More AV1 would be the third one in the mix. As a CDN, we're agnostic. We see MP4 containers, we don't know what's codecs inside. A lot of people ask me for stats. Surely you know who's playing what. We don't. We would have to customer data and parse their objects and try to figure out the codecs they're using. And it's A, it's a privacy problem, and B, it's too computationally expensive to do that.